Wife, don't wait up. Me. Don't worry, I didn't. Her panic when she saw who was with me. She laughed in my face as she grabbed her keys and said, don't wait up. Like I was some boring backup plan. Everyone at her girls' night thought it was hilarious that I'd be sitting home alone while she lived her life. But the joke wasn't on me this time. Before I tell you what happened next, hit that subscribe button, give this story a like, and drop a comment if you've ever been taken for granted. You're going to love where this goes. My name is Ryan. I'm 42, recently promoted at work, decent shape, steady life, nothing flashy, but solid. My wife, Emily, used to love that about me. Stability, loyalty, the kind of man who didn't go out chasing attention or validation. The kind of man who believed relationships were built on trust. But lately, she decided trust was boring that we were finishing dinner. A simple Friday evening, candles burning, soft music playing, when her phone pinged. She glanced at the screen, and suddenly her face lit up like fireworks. The girls want to go out, she said, already standing. It'll be good for me to blow off some steam. I just nodded, clearing plates. Sure, have fun. She looked at me like I was invisible. Yeah, don't wait up. The tone wasn't casual. It wasn't teasing. It was a dismissal, a declaration that I didn't matter tonight. And when she walked out, she didn't glance back. The door closed, and the silence that followed felt sharper than any argument we'd ever had. I sat at the table for a few minutes, listening to the quiet. The wine tasted bitter now. The candles flickered like they were struggling for air. I kept hearing her voice in my head, don't wait up. Like she was daring me to just sit there and be pathetic. Emily had changed. No, she had shifted. She started spending more time at the gym than with me. Started talking about finding herself. Buying clothes that weren't meant for comfort, but for display. And the way she smiled at her phone sometimes, like someone on the other side was feeding her excitement I couldn't give. But the truth was, I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was tired. Tired of feeling like a placeholder in my own marriage. So instead of waiting like she expected, I got dressed. Not fancy, just clean, confident. A dark jacket, fitted jeans. I looked in the mirror and realized I hadn't chosen myself in a long time. That changed tonight. The keys felt good in my hand. The click of the lock behind me felt like the start of something. I didn't even know where I was driving. I just knew I wasn't staying home. Not for someone who didn't respect the seat at our dinner table, let alone the man at IT. I drove. I thought about all the nights I had trusted her word without question. Every excuse she gave. Every late workout session and girls' trip. I believed because that's what a husband does. But belief without appreciation becomes weakness, and I wasn't weak anymore. City lights blurred past. Music played low. I felt free. Not irresponsible. Not reckless. Just alive in a way I'd forgotten. I pulled into a parking lot near a lounge I used to like years ago. Nothing fancy. Just a place with real people. People who weren't constantly trying to impress strangers who didn't care. I walked inside, and the warmth of the room hit me. Laughter, clinking glasses, soft lighting. A place where nobody knew I was supposed to be someone's doormat. I sat at the bar, ordered a drink, and breathed in the moment. For once, no checking my phone every minute to make sure she was safe, or okay, or coming home. Tonight, I didn't know my worry to someone who treated it like a joke, and that's when I heard a familiar voice. Ryan? Wow, I almost didn't recognize you. I turned, and there she was, Samantha, Emily's personal trainer. Tall, athletic, confident, with black hair pulled into a stylish ponytail. The woman Emily always complained about because she thinks she's better than everyone. Maybe Emily was just projecting. Samantha smiled as she sat next to me. You look good. Better than the last time I saw you. There was something genuine in her eyes. Attention, yes, but also understanding. She ordered a drink and bumped her shoulder lightly against mine. So what's got you out here alone? I could have lied, but I didn't care to pretend anymore. Emily went out with friends, I said simply, and she told me not to wait up. Samantha raised a brow. And you listened? I laughed quietly. For once, yeah. She nodded like that answer made perfect sense. Good. You deserve a night out too, Ryan. The conversation felt easy, natural, not like walking on eggshells. We talked about work, movies, stupid gym stories, and for the first time in a while, I felt seen, valued, not as a background character, but as someone worth noticing. The hours slipped by fast. We weren't flirting exactly, but there was a spark there. A spark I hadn't felt in a long time. A spark that said, you're still worth wanting. At some point, I checked the time. It was late. The kind of late that would have once worried me sick about Emily. But tonight, I felt nothing but curiosity about what would happen next. Samantha finished the last sip of her drink and smiled. Let me guess, you're gonna go home and wait on the couch like a dutiful husband? I shook my head. No, I said. I think I'm going to keep choosing myself. She grinned. Mind if I tag along? I didn't know we walked out together, side by side, with the night air feeling new and light around us. And as I unlocked the car and watched her slide into the passenger seat, one thing was very clear. Emily had said, don't wait up. And I hadn't. Driving home, the city felt different. Not bigger, not brighter, just less heavy. Like for once, I wasn't chained to someone else's choices. Samantha sat beside me, relaxed, tapping her fingers lightly to the music. No pressure, no expectations. Just two adults enjoying the night instead of being suffocated by it. When we pulled into my apartment complex, she looked at me with a calm, curious smile. You sure you're okay with this? She asked. Not flirtatious. Not promising anything. Just a genuine question. I nodded. I'm okay. Truth was, I felt better than I had in months. We got out of the car and leaned against it for a while, still talking. About normal things. About life. About what we wanted from it. There was something healing about being understood by someone who didn't need me to be perfect or impressive. Emily never mentioned how funny you are, Samantha said at one point, shaking her head with a teasing grin. I smirked. Emily doesn't mention much about me these days, unless she's complaining. Samantha's eyes softened. She doesn't deserve someone who shows up the way you do. Compliments. Honest ones. Words I wasn't used to hearing. Time kept slipping by. The air softened as the night settled deeper around us. For a moment, I forgot Emily existed. Forgot about every cold shoulder and sarcastic laugh she'd thrown my way. All I felt was the quiet and the comfort of someone who simply liked being near me. And then, headlights swung into the parking lot like a spotlight cutting across a staged Emily C. It swerved slightly as it turned in, music thumping from inside, even before the window rolled down. Her laughter spilled out into the night. Loud, careless, intoxicating. She wasn't alone. A couple of her friends stumbled out after her, giggling, barely able to stand in their heels. That I felt my jaw tighten. Not because I was jealous, but because I saw exactly how little she cared about the life we'd built, the life she'd left behind tonight without a second thought. She didn't notice us right away. She was too busy posing for pictures by the car, tossing her hair, reliving the party through a phone screen. Then, one of her friends nudged her and pointed directly at me. Emily's expression froze, like she'd been doused with ice water. Her eyes locked on Samantha first, and panic lit up behind them like a flare. Her laughter died instantly. She blinked hard, stumbling a step forward as if she could force the scene to make sense. "Ryan," she slurred. What is this?" Samantha didn't move away from me. She just crossed her arms casually, completely unaffected. I didn't say anything yet. I wanted Emily to sit in that confusion a little longer. Emily staggered closer, high heels scraping the pavement. She pointed a shaky finger at Samantha. You're my trainer. Why are you? What are you?" Samantha raised a brow. "Talking to a grown man who happens to be your husband. Last time I checked, that wasn't a crime." Emily's glare sharpened, voice climbing higher. "Get away from him." Her friends hovered behind, whispering, suddenly unsure whether they should still be drunk or concerned that I kept my voice calm. Even controlled. "You said not to wait up." She spun toward me, eyes glossy and desperate. I didn't think. You didn't think," I echoed. "That sounds right." She shook her head, stepping closer. Her breath smelled like sugary drinks and a night she'd regret in the morning. "Ryan, come on. You're blowing this out of proportion. I was just having fun." I tilted my head slightly. "And so was I." Those 4 words sliced through her composure. She looked me up and down, like seeing me for the first time. Like she'd suddenly realized her husband might actually be desirable. Wanted. Seen. The panic she tried to hide bubbled up, her chest rising quickly, her lip trembling. "How could you do this?" she whispered harshly. With her. The irony was rich enough to choke on. Samantha stepped forward then, her tone still calm, but sharp enough to cut glass. "Funny. You get to disappear for nights at a time, treat him like wallpaper, and somehow you're the victim when he decides his time matters too." Emily's face collapsed into something messy and frantic. The powerful party girl who strutted out hours ago? Gone. Now she was just someone terrified of losing control she thought she'd always have. "Ryan," she pleaded. "Please, just come inside. We can talk." Without her, I looked at the front door behind her, the same door she'd walked out of without a second thought. The same door she expected to be a revolving exit for me, to just wait behind like a forgotten piece of furniture that I didn't move. "I'm done being told to wait," I said quietly. Her panic turned into anger, then back into desperation in seconds. "You're my husband." I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply answered. "And you're the one who left." The silence that followed was loud enough to echo through the parking lot. Her friends mumbled excuses and slipped away, suddenly embarrassed to be witnesses to her collapse. Emily's eyes darted between us, fear growing like a shadow behind them. She wasn't worried about what I'd done. She was terrified of what it meant. I opened the car door and gestured for Samantha to get inside. She did, still calm, still confident. Emily reached out like she could physically stop reality from changing. "Ryan, please." But I'd already gotten into the driver's seat. For the first time in our marriage, I closed the door on her, and I didn't look back. The echo of the door shutting felt like a final verdict. I gripped the steering wheel, staring forward while Emily's blurred figure through the windshield stumbled after us, her voice muffled by the glass. I didn't rush to drive off. I wanted a moment to breathe, a moment to let the weight of everything sink in. Samantha sat quietly beside me, giving me space, her presence calm and steady. To Emily's fists hit the passenger window once, not as violence, but as fear. Fear of losing the certainty she had always counted on. Her lips moved rapidly, but I didn't roll the window down. I didn't know her that moment of control. She finally stepped back, hugging her arms around herself, watching as if I were slipping away into another life. One she never imagined I could have. That I pulled away slowly, not looking in the mirror. The night swallowed her figure as the parking lot disappeared behind us. For a few minutes, Samantha and I stayed silent. The radio played something soft and melancholic, like the universe had queued up the soundtrack to a turning point I never saw coming. Eventually, she glanced toward me. "You okay?" I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I think I will be." She nodded, as if she understood more than the words. "You handled that better than most people would." I almost laughed, a tired, disbelieving sound. I didn't say anything. I just left. "That's exactly why it worked," she said. "Sometimes silence is the thing that forces people to hear." We drove for a while, crossing quiet streets lined with sleeping houses. I didn't feel guilt. Not yet. I felt relief. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one begging for attention or respect. I wasn't clinging to someone who treated me like a backup plan. Samantha suggested getting something to eat, greasy diner food, nothing fancy. We found a 24-hour place, the kind of spot with neon lights buzzing overhead and vinyl booths worn from decades of conversations like this one. We sat across from each other, both leaning in, both tired, yet energized in a strange way. She ordered fries for the table and nudged them toward me. "You look like you haven't eaten since yesterday," she joked. "I made dinner," I said, the bitterness slipping out before I could stop it. "For two." Then she left. Samantha finished quietly. I nodded. "She doesn't understand what she has," Samantha added. "She's so focused on what she thinks she deserves that she forgot how lucky she already was." Emily's laugh echoed in my memory, loud, mocking, filled with a confidence she never earned. I wondered how many nights she'd chosen someone else's attention over mine. How many times I stayed home caring while she pretended she didn't have anything to lose. She used to be different, I murmured. We used to be different. Samantha didn't respond with cliches. She didn't say people change. She didn't say marriages take work. She just listened, truly listened, like my feelings didn't need translation or justification, that we talked until the coffee lost its heat and the fries were cold. The world outside remained quiet, resting while my world reset itself. At one point, Samantha rested her hand near mine on the table. Not touching, just close enough to feel. And for reasons I couldn't explain, that tiny distance felt like safety. Everything inside me wanted to freeze in that booth a little longer, to avoid going back to the life that waited with tension and unanswered questions. But the hours caught up with us. We paid the check and stepped back out into the cool air. The ride home was calmer. Samantha leaned her head back and closed her eyes, trusting me completely. I couldn't remember the last time someone trusted me without strings attached. When we pulled into the lot again, it was nearly silent. The wild mess of earlier was gone. No sign of Emily or her friends. The world had cleaned up the chaos while we were away. Samantha opened her eyes slowly, stretching with a yawn. I had a good night, she said softly. So did I. She smiled, small and real. Thank you for letting me be part of it. I shook my head. I should be thanking you. She gave me a gentle look, one I had missed seeing from anyone for far too long, that we stepped out of the car, standing close, but not too close. Samantha brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. If you need someone to talk to, or just to sit with and eat bad fries again, call me. She winked lightly. Don't tell Emily I said that. I let out a breath of a laugh. Our secret. She started to walk away, then turned briefly. Ryan, don't crawl back into the shadows. You deserve better than that. I watched her leave, confident stride, head held high. She didn't look back, but she didn't need to. I knew I would see her again. When she disappeared around the side of the building, I finally headed toward the apartment. The hallway felt colder than usual. I opened the door, expecting silence, but instead found Emily sitting on the couch, mascara smudged, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Her eyes shot up the moment she heard the door. She looked terrified. Not angry, not proud, just terrified. Ryan, she whispered, voice cracking. Please, can we talk? For a moment, I stood there, the doorway a border between who I had been and who I was becoming that I didn't step inside yet and I wasn't sure if I wanted to. The power wasn't in what I would say. The power was in the fact that she finally had to ask. Emily's please still hung in the air as I stood in the doorway. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. Makeup smudged, hair tangled, eyes trembling. Not the confident woman who strutted out earlier telling me not to wait up. Now she looked like someone who just realized the ground under her wasn't as solid as she thought. That I closed the door quietly behind me, but didn't move any closer. She swallowed hard. Ryan, what happened tonight? It's not what it looked like. Her voice shook, trying to sound controlled, but failing miserably. Did I raise a brow? You mean me enjoying myself? You're right. That's definitely something you've never seen before. She flinched, like the truth physically hit her. I was just having a fun night with my friends, she insisted weakly. I didn't expect you to go out too. There it was. The confession buried in her words. She expected me to stay home. Waiting. Always waiting. Why? I asked simply. What do you mean why? She snapped, a spark of her old arrogance flickering back. Because that's what you do. That's what you've always done. You're home. You're safe, predictable. You mean convenient, I corrected. She shut her eyes, exhaling shakily. I was stupid. I took you for granted. But seeing you with her, her voice cracked. I thought I was going to lose you. My silence pressed on her like weight. She stood up from the couch, stepping closer, cautious as if I might vanish. Why her? Why Samantha? She's always been jealous of me. She wants my life, my body, everything I have. And now she has you too. That's the thing, I said quietly. You think everything you touch becomes your property. She shook her head fast. No, that's not it. It is, I interrupted. You were never afraid of losing me. You were just afraid of losing control. She stared at me, breathing uneven. Tears formed at the corners of her eyes and spilled down, cutting streaks through her ruined makeup. Ryan, please, she whispered, stepping closer, reaching out to place her hands on my chest. We can fix this. We can go back. I'll change. I swear. Her touch didn't feel like warmth anymore. It felt like a reminder of all the times she treated me like background noise. I gently removed her hands from me. You don't get to break something and then panic when someone else sees the value you ignored. She blinked up at me, desperate. I love you. The most tragic part of all. She probably believed she was telling the truth. You love the comfort I bring, I said. You love knowing I'm always there. But you never loved me enough to respect me. Her tears came harder now, shoulders shaking. I was scared. Scared of getting older. Scared of the gym girls who looked 21. Scared I wasn't enough anymore. I thought if I had attention from other people, I'd feel better. You chose strangers, I said. I chose loyalty. She wrapped her arms around herself as if she were freezing. Just tell me what to do, she begged. Tell me how to fix this. I walked past her slowly. The hallway light cast our shadows long against the wall, hers trembling, mine steady. You said don't wait up, I reminded her. So I didn't. She turned toward me, eyes wide with fear. Realizing what those words really meant now, I opened the closet door and pulled out an overnight bag. Nothing dramatic, just the essentials. The quiet sound of zippers and fabric rustling was louder than any fight we could have had. Where are you going? She choked out, voice barely audible. To think, I answered, without being treated like a doormat. She stepped closer again, reaching out as if to hold on to something already gone. I can't lose you, she whispered. You already did, I said. The truth hit her like a collapse from the inside. She stumbled back a step, breath hitching, knees weak. She looked at me as if seeing the end for the first time. I walked to the door. She didn't chase me. She couldn't. The moment had taken every ounce of her strength. With my hand on the doorknob, I paused and looked back just once. You pushed me away, I said softly. I just finally stopped holding on. Her lips parted. No sound, no excuse, no comeback. Just silence. and silence from someone who always had something to say is the loudest goodbye. I stepped out into the night air, letting the door close gently behind me. No slam, no rage, just peace. The kind I hadn't known in years. As I reached the car, I glanced up. In the window, Emily stood like a ghost, pale, terrified, realizing her fun night out had cost her more than she ever expected. She wasn't afraid of Samantha. She was afraid of the man I had become, that a man who finally chose himself, that a man who no longer waited for her permission to live. That I got into the driver's seat, the keys cold in my hand. I didn't know exactly where I would go next. Maybe a hotel, maybe a friend's place, maybe just a long drive until the sunrise. But wherever the road led, it would be mine. I turned the ignition, the engine humming like a promise. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's not even intentional. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply walking away. If you enjoyed this story and want more like it, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment below. Tell me, has anyone in your life only realized your worth when you finally decided to leave?